You slept, and you're still tired. Not from last night, not from the week, from something that doesn't have a date on it. You know the difference by now. There's the tired that a good night fixes, the one that sits in your eyes and your legs, the one that lifts by Saturday morning, and then there's this one, the one that's still there when you wake up rested, the one that makes 8 hours feel like 4, the one that coffee addresses but never touches. You've been carrying this one for a while. It shows up in specific ways. The Sunday afternoon when you have nowhere to be, and instead of feeling relieved, your chest does something that isn't quite dread, but isn't quite peace either. Something low and unlocated, like a sound you can't identify in another room. You find something to do, not because you want to, just because stillness, for some reason, feels harder than moving. It shows up at the end of a day where nothing went wrong. You did everything. You handled it. You got home, sat down, and felt not satisfied, not depleted exactly, just empty in a way that doesn't have an obvious cause. And you tell yourself, you're just tired. And that's true. It just doesn't explain anything. It shows up in your body before it shows up anywhere else. The heaviness behind your eyes at 2 p.m. that isn't about sleep. The tension across the top of your shoulders that's still there on Monday morning, even though you rested all weekend. The way your jaw tightens slightly when someone asks you to do one more thing. Not in anger, just in the quiet recognition that something inside you has been running at capacity for longer than you can account for. And the strangest part is that from the outside, nothing looks wrong. You show up, you function, you probably do it well. The tiredness is interior. A private weather system that nobody else sees, because you learned a long time ago how to look fine, regardless of what's happening underneath. This is not a sleep problem. The body keeps a ledger. Every time your system had to work harder than the situation called for. Every time you held yourself together in a room where you had to be fine, every time you managed something difficult and then moved immediately to the next thing without ever actually landing, the body wrote it down, not in memory. In the muscles that stay braced. In the nervous system that stays slightly elevated even when the threat is gone. Physiologists call this allostatic load. The accumulated wear of a system that never fully discharged what it absorbed. What it means practically is this. You can rest the surface and never touch what's underneath. Sleep recovers what today used. It doesn't reach what last year cost. And here's where it goes deeper than most people expect. 10,000 years ago, the human nervous system that couldn't fully relax, the one that kept one ear open even during sleep, that stayed alert in the quiet, that nervous system survived. The one that fully unwound, that trusted the silence completely, often didn't. A low hum of vigilance wasn't anxiety, it was intelligence. It was the system doing exactly what kept the body alive. That wiring doesn't disappear because the threats changed, it got passed down. And then it got shaped further by everything that happened in the house you grew up in. If you grew up in a home where things were unpredictable, not necessarily dramatic, sometimes just emotionally unreliable, sometimes just a parent who needed more than they gave, your nervous system learned something specific very early. It learned to scan, to read the room before you entered it, to monitor for shifts in tone, in mood, in what was needed, to stay available. And the thing about learning that young is that you don't learn it as a skill. You learn it as a state. It becomes the water you swim in. And when you grow up and the original source of unpredictability is gone, the scanning doesn't stop. It just finds new rooms to read, new people to monitor, new responsibilities to stay on top of. The vigilance that once protected a child becomes the baseline that exhausts the adult. And the cost of that doesn't show up as a breakdown. It shows up as a Tuesday, a perfectly ordinary Tuesday where nothing went wrong, and you still feel, by 7 p.m., like you ran something you didn't sign up for. The body doesn't announce what it's processing. It just gets heavier, quietly, over years, until the weight feels so familiar, you stop calling it weight and start calling it personality. The micro moment where this lives is not dramatic. It's the pause before you answer a text from someone who needs something from you. That half second where your stomach tightens slightly before you even read the words. It's the way you do a quick inventory of everyone's mood before you decide how you're doing. It's the fact that you notice when someone in the room is off before they've said a word, and something in you quietly starts adjusting. Not consciously, just automatically. Like a floor that shifts to compensate for the weight before you finish stepping onto it. That's not sensitivity. That's a nervous system that has been working since before you knew what work was. The layer underneath that is this. The scanning isn't random. It learned what to look for from someone specific. A parent who was unpredictable. A home where the emotional temperature could change without warning. A childhood that required you to be good at reading what was needed before you were asked. Because being caught off guard felt dangerous in a way you couldn't have named at the time, you became fluent in a language nobody taught you. And fluency that comes from necessity doesn't feel like a skill. It feels like who you are. And the identity built around it makes complete sense. You're the capable one, the one who handles things, the one people trust to not fall apart. You've probably heard some version of, "I don't know how you do it," enough times that it became part of how you understand yourself. Not as a burden, but as a fact. I'm just someone who can handle a lot. That's not wrong. You can. The question the body's asking, quietly, persistently, in the language of 2 p.m. heaviness and Monday morning shoulders, is not whether you can handle it. It already knows you can. The question is what handling everything for this long, without ever being handed something back, has been costing you at a level that rest doesn't reach. And this is where it gets honest. There's a version of this exhaustion that is genuinely about circumstance, about a season of life that asks too much, about a genuinely difficult year, about a pace that needs to slow down. Rest can help that. Time can help that. But there's another version that has been here longer than this year, that was here last year too, and the year before. A tiredness that follows you through vacations and long weekends and periods where nothing is technically wrong. If that's the one you recognize, the one that doesn't lift, the one that sleep addresses but never resolves, then the question worth sitting with isn't how to get more rest. The question is whether you have ever actually been allowed to be tired. Not managed it, not pushed through it, not optimized around it. Whether anyone at any point in your life made enough room for you to set down what you were carrying and stay down long enough to feel how heavy it actually was. Or whether the carrying became so continuous, so expected by others and eventually by yourself, that you stopped noticing you were doing it at all. Whether capable became a costume so well fitted you forgot it was a costume. That's the question that sleep can't answer. And the exhaustion that comes from not answering it doesn't lift with rest. It just gets quieter for a few hours and then picks up exactly where it left off. Because some of this exhaustion isn't from this week. It isn't even from this year. It's from every week you got through without anyone noticing what it cost you. Every room you read before you entered it. Every time you were fine before anyone asked. Every time you finished handling something and the next thing was already waiting. And there was no pause between them long enough to actually feel what the first thing took. The body logged all of it. It's been keeping the tab longer than you've been keeping track. And somewhere in there, under the capable, under the functional, under the just tired, something is still waiting for the moment when it's finally okay to put it down. That moment doesn't arrive on its own. But noticing it exists is somewhere to start. If any of this landed somewhere real, leave one word in the comments, just one word. For the person reading this at 2 a.m. who has been holding everything together for so long, they forgot there was another option. You've been carrying this a long time. That's enough for tonight.